Yo, different kind of video today. I'm kicking off a sort of like weekly series where I'm going to talk about, music production, business, marketing, branding, design, basically all of the shit that you have to do something online. In this one, I'm going to talk about the reason why I'm transforming my content strategy to include things like this. And I'm also going to share kind of how I'm doing it, but that's almost another episode in its own. This is for anyone that wants to create content from, what they're doing. It's for anyone that wants to create a content strategy from scratch. It's for the people that don't have any fucking clue what a content strategy is. It doesn't matter if you're a designer, a writer, something else entirely. As long as you want to get your ideas out there and then make money from them, this is useful to you. Maybe you'll learn something from me. Hopefully you'll be inspired to take action. I'm sharing this because this kind of knowledge has been really useful to me from other people that have shared it, and so I want to contribute back to that. If you would rather read this kind of stuff instead of watching it, I do put out a newsletter with all of this in it. It goes out actually earlier than the YouTube videos go out, so if you're impatient, just sign up for the newsletter. There's a link in the description. So I wanted to start with talking about who I am. I'm a creative person and I run everything related to my beat selling business and my music production company. I make all the content, I built the website, manage the website, handle the social media, manage the newsletter, I do pretty much everything. I am also an artist. I like to make music just to make music for myself, and then I put that out there under Diet Sugar versus Diet on the Beat, which is where all of my beats go to. Sounds like a lot, right? It kind of is. Maybe this sounds like all this shit that you do as well. I'm gonna be honest, it's a lot of work. It's also incredibly rewarding. I am so happy that I don't have to wake up and go to a corporate job anymore. I made this transition in the middle of 2022. For the first few months, I kind of just floundered. But anyways, I love what I do, and I think it shows in my work. I know that as a creative, one of the things that I've struggled with, and one of the things that I think many other people who are creative struggle with, is consistently creating content. Great content that matches your tastes, content that you're okay putting out there. For that fucking matter, a lot of people just struggle in general. They don't know what to create. One of the things that you realize pretty quickly when you're doing all of this on your own is that, you might be really good at a couple of pieces of it. Maybe you are really good at creating, the product, the actual beats. Maybe you're really good at creating the newsletters and you really struggle with the beats because you always have beat block. Maybe you're really good at the social media side of it, but you really have no idea how to do anything else. And when you start to try to scale your business, you realize, I need all of those parts. I know that because that used to be me. If you're new to the channel, this is Kirby. He loves being in front of the camera. You're gonna see him all of the time. If you're not sure why content creation matters, and that's one of the only things you want to get out of this video, let me be incredibly blunt and say that it is the foundation for everything else that you're going to do online as a creative. It's going to establish your credibility. It's going to attract customers. Basically, without content, you can't expect to grow an audience or build anything online. You have to promote. You have to know when to put the right piece of content in front of the right person. Regardless if you're an artist, if you're a rapper, if you're a beat maker, if you're a producer, if you're a designer, if you're a marketer, learning how to do content online is useful to you. Learning about content strategy is going to be useful to you. Yeah, content matters. Your content strategy matters. Probably more important than the content. Content strategy matters a lot. And before we get into all of the how of what I'm doing, I want to talk about the why. So the first thing is to take your background, whatever it is, and use it to your success. I put myself through college. I got a business degree. Because of that, I have had just a variety of opportunities to work in a bunch of different industries and in different roles. I've done things like web development, web design, graphic design, coming up with business architecture for big enterprises, brand strategy, copywriting, project management, product marketing. All of those skills have definitely helped me, but I'm not here to tell you that you need them. The simple fact is you fucking don't. You can learn everything that you need to learn online. But the key takeaway here is like, you don't need all of the experience that I have to be successful. Take whatever background you have and use it. Use it to your advantage. I'm using all of those skills. You have different skills than I do. You have different ways of solving problems than I do. You are you. You're gonna have a completely unique approach to whatever you're doing, and it's gonna be informed by your history. Fuck it, be yourself. Make content that inspires you. The second lesson, I guess, put some effort into understanding what the content ecosystem is that you're working in. I know this sucks. It's overwhelming if you don't know what the fuck you're doing, but do it. Because if you're creative, then chances are coming up with a content strategy is not something that is gonna come naturally to you. Speaking personally, I would rather make music all day. So when it comes to like planning out a content calendar, let alone coming up with an entire strategy, let alone understanding what a content ecosystem is. Countless other people that are creatives have told me that they also struggle with it. One of the things that's going to be like a foundation for your knowledge is called a content ecosystem. Your online presence has a lot of pieces to it. Blog posts, social media posts, email newsletters, music videos, the beats that you make, the songs that you make, the graphic design that goes along with all those things, the stories on your Instagram feed where you're showing the process of how you do all of that, the stuff that you tweet. When you take all of that, all of those things, all the things that I just mentioned, the content ecosystem is how those things are interconnected. More importantly, how they add value when they're interconnected, and it's more value than they add when they're separate. So take it seriously. Learn what a content ecosystem is. Start there. It's big picture, all of the pieces that you need to think about. It's a bit of a top-down approach. When you put effort into understanding what that ecosystem is and why it's important to you, you're gonna change the way that you approach content for a specific purpose, for a specific part of the ecosystem. Lesson 3, spend some time thinking about your customers. I want to give my audience an experience that makes them feel something. That could be sadness, that could be joy, that could be inspiration. I spend a lot of time thinking about how to tell the story of my brand. There's one thing though that I didn't really think about, and that was how the content strategy of what I'm putting out there, how that actually interrelates with a customer journey. And if you don't know what a customer journey is, I'll put another episode out about that, so let me know in the comments if that's something that you're interested in. Not thinking about that, that's a mistake. That was a mistake. When you think about your brand, when you think about your message that you're trying to put out there, the essence of what you want to share with your ideas, I also would suggest that you spend some time thinking about your customer, because it's going to become clear to you that across the life cycle of a customer, as it relates to your brand, there's going to be so many touch points that if you send them the wrong content, if you show them the wrong content, it's just going to fall flat. That's going to impact the way that other people perceive your brand. Just think about the person that you're trying to attract. What kind of shows do they watch on Netflix? Who's their favorite artist? What kind of rappers are they listening to outside of their favorite artist? Like, what are they eating? What kind of stuff do they share on social media? What kind of blogs do they follow? Where are they from? And I don't mean like USA, I mean like which street in Toronto. I'm trying to pinpoint who this one person is that I think would love my music. And if you can do that, it's called creating an avatar for your customer. Whenever you build content, build it for that one person. And you might be thinking like, well, what about everybody else? Fuck everybody else, because there will be people that are similar enough to that one person that they'll be interested, but that one person is gonna buy your shit. Take understanding the customer seriously. That's enough of why, so let's get into the how. I know that's probably something that you're interested in. And if you take away nothing else from this video, take away these 4 tips. If you want to transform your content strategy, start with the mindset shift, learn from other creatives and brands, so use a reference. Ask yourself, what does this mean for me? What do I need to change about my habits? Most importantly, less is more. If you know what you're doing. I'm gonna break down those 4 tips into a little bit more detail. So first, start with the mindset shift. You don't matter, your customer does. What I mean by that is it's simply not enough to just create a piece of content and hope that it resonates with that one person. If that was enough, everybody would be successful as fuck online. You need to deliver the right piece of content to that one person at the right time. I'll give you a really practical example of this. This is something that I see all the time. This is something that I've also been guilty of in the past, and I've learned from it, and I'm moving away from it entirely. If you're a beat maker, why the fuck would someone want to use Instagram to browse for beats? That doesn't make any sense. You can't search very well. You can only listen to a snippet where it takes you out of your experience. For me, as soon as that happens, I'm out. I want a 60-second or less piece of content because that's what I'm on Instagram for. People delete their posts all the time, so you might find a beat that you like and then it's gone the next day. I mean, I can go on and on. Airbit exists, BeatStars exists, TrackTrain exists, YouTube exists, SoundCloud exists. All of those things are built for search engines. Some of them are specifically built for selling beats. So why would you post just your beat on Instagram and think that's the content strategy that's gonna work? It's a naive approach to it is what it is. I know there are people that are hesitant about putting their beats on YouTube because people can rip them. So the fuck what? Get over it. People are gonna steal your shit. Enable them to. Allow them to download stuff for free. Not everyone has $30 to pull a beat onto their computer that they're not even sure about yet. Your customer matters. You don't. That one person, maybe they want to download the beat for free before they pay for it, so that when they go to the studio, if that beat sounds good on the speakers and it inspires them and they make something and that starts getting some traction behind it, then they can purchase the license, because then it's money that's well spent for them. It's time that was well spent for them. Final bow on top of this point, the thing that is most important to most people is time. If you can allow people to find what they're looking for in less time, that's great. Like, you've enabled them now to do something with their time that's actually beneficial and valuable to them. So you have to accept that you're working with a human. Your customer is a human. You have to accept the reality of their life. Give them what they want to consume on Instagram. That's like dumb shit, funny shit, meme shit, whatever. Think about it, answer the questions of who this person is, and then give them what they want. If you need to be entertaining on Instagram, be entertaining. If you need to be dumb on Instagram, be dumb. If you need to be inspiring, be inspiring. But stop posting your fucking beats with just the 60 seconds of audio thinking that that's gonna get people to buy your beat. What's gonna happen is you're gonna get a bunch of producers commenting the fucking fire emoji and asking you to reshare their own beat because everyone's doing it. The people that are succeeding are not doing that. They've pivoted away from that because it no longer works. It might have used to work. I don't know, it's never worked for me. Point being, focus on the customer. If you can understand who your customer is, target your content to what they want to consume at the different parts of your content ecosystem. That's a gem. Drop your boy a follow on my Instagram, on my Twitter, on my YouTube, whatever. Help me out, help me grow, help me share this knowledge with other producers that need to hear this stuff, with other artists that need to hear this stuff, with other creatives. This is something that we all struggle with. We all want to make money from our art. Let's do this together. Let's collaborate. Let's share these ideas. Let's share this knowledge. There's one thing that I've learned. I have to treat the social media as the top of my customer funnel, where people become aware. The one person I'm trying to target does not want to see a beat on Instagram. Anyways, keep putting your beats on Instagram if you want to. I did it for like a year. It didn't work. No one cares. If you need to make that mistake yourself before you learn it, go right ahead. If you thought that was a valuable lesson to learn before you made it, throw your boy a follow. Okay, the second one. Learn from other creatives and brands. So you might be totally new to the whole business stuff. You might just be learning about it. You might not be doing this full time. You might be thinking about doing it full time. We've all been there. Don't stress about that. There is an endless source of knowledge out there. You literally already have it curated for yourself. That's kind of wild, right? Like, what I mean by that is you follow people on social media. You have inspirations, influences. At the end of the day, you're a copycat. That's what humans are. We're copycats. So use everything that you've already curated for yourself, steal it, tweak it, make it your own, and then share it. And if you're uncomfortable with the idea of using a reference, get over it. If you want to slow your progress down, the best way to do it is to not use a reference. Humans literally work that way. We take ideas, we copy them with our own perspective and experiences from the world that we exist in. then we share that as a new idea. I mean, if you don't think that that's you, then you're telling me that you learned to walk, talk, eat, function as a human without any help from anyone. Like you didn't have any references to go like, that's how a human walks. And I'm not saying to plagiarize. You're gonna get called out on your shit if you plagiarize. I'm saying to use a reference. No one that makes music that understands the value of a reference is going to argue that having a reference track is a good idea. Take that same concept and apply it to content. If you don't have a reference, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications. I'm literally going to give away my playbook as I'm building it up. That's me trying to share back to the community that has taught me so much about music production. If you want this content earlier, sign up for the newsletter. It's in Word form, so it's like you don't get to see me doing all these gestures and shit. If you want to read it early and then, you know, have a couple of weeks to digest and chew on it and then watch the video and then interact and ask some questions, it's not a bad idea. Everybody learns differently. Third, ask yourself, what does this mean for me? Let's assume that you took my advice, you have some references, you've shifted your mindset from thinking about yourself to thinking about your customer, and you need to know what's next. I would suggest asking yourself the question, what does this knowledge mean to me? Does it mean that you need to stop posting your beats to Instagram because you realize that your customer is never going to care about them when they're there? Does that mean that maybe instead what you post to Instagram is start to share your process because your customer is also interested in making music? They want to be inspired by someone else that makes music in a similar genre and in a similar way to them. I don't know, right? I don't know what it means for you. I know what it means for me. I honestly had no clue what kind of content my audience would have wanted to consume until I started thinking about that one person. Number 4, less is more, if you know what you're doing. I'll kind of share a little bit about myself. I used to spend hours making music every month. And then towards the end of the month, I'd start getting overwhelmed by this backlog of music that I had created. You know, I might make anywhere from 20 to 30, 60 beats in a month if I was having just a super productive month. Now I have to share all this stuff. So half the time I just wouldn't share it. When you make that much stuff, a lot of it is gonna be trash. I don't like sharing the beats that don't inspire me. So I get overwhelmed with that process that I have now needed to take on of taking all of those products, which is what they are, and creating content for them. It's just chaos. It's pure chaos when you work that way. I would repeat the cycle. Like for me, that was me learning what worked or what didn't work. A lot of it didn't work. Some of it worked. Following that mentality, following that process, I was able to get my beat catalog big. You know, I didn't have anything at the beginning of the year. By the end of the year, I had over 100, and I was proud of that. That was a goal that I set. I wanted to grow my beat catalog. My growth as a brand, a creative, was abysmal. That may sound familiar to some of y'all. Maybe it works really well for some of you. I'm not saying to change it. For me, that didn't work. And so the lesson that I wanted to take away from that is that less is more, because the process that I was following sucked. It wasn't efficient. It wasn't enjoyable. Most importantly, it didn't work. I'm going to talk about how I create more content with less content. I'm not going to break it down in a ton of detail because this video is probably already super long. If you want to make this work for yourself, if you want to make more content with less work, you have to understand the content ecosystem. You have to understand how all of the pieces play together. Because once you get that through your thick skull, you can move forward. Until you do that, you're fucked. So sorry, Charlie, you're out of luck. So let's talk about designing a content strategy that works. One of my core values is time. Time is my one true limited resource. I will never get more of it, ever. And quite frankly, I don't want to spend all of my time creating content. I mean, at the end of the day, I still have to run the rest of the business. I still have to make the beats. I still have to make the sample pack. I still enjoy those parts of it. What I wanted to do is I wanted to figure out how I could, with an understanding of the content ecosystem, with an understanding of what my customer needs, what they desire to consume. I wanted to figure out how I could create content from the top down so that I could save time. I decided I'm gonna create one core piece of content each week. I'm gonna create a super long newsletter. Then with that newsletter, I'm gonna turn it into a stream of content for the entire week. There's a lot of detail that I could go into. I'll do another episode about that. To do that, I need to choose a topic. every week. To do that, I start pulling from my references. I start pulling from my influences. Those references are so important. They give you like a roadmap almost, you know? Then lastly, I needed to figure out how I was gonna post the right content at the right time and in the right place. I wasn't trying to drop all of the content on the same day. That would be naive. That would be a waste of my effort. Instead, what I wanted to do is I want to spread it out, spread it like butter across the content ecosystem. And I want to target specific parts of that content to specific mediums, to specific places. I want to put the content ecosystem to work, right? That's a very important concept here. It's not an easy process. I'm going to be honest with you. It's difficult. It's challenging. It's forcing me to go outside of my comfort zone. It's rewarding though. I feel like I'm making progress. I feel confident in my decisions. I feel like I have room to experiment, freedom to experiment. Point being, figure out the content strategy that works for you. You're different than me. This may not work for you. You may not want to be on camera. That's totally fine. The next thing that I need to do is I need to use a predefined promotion strategy, and it needs to be consistent. And what I mean by this is I don't want to have to make that decision every single time with every single piece of content, because at the end of the day, your promotion strategy doesn't need to be different for every piece of content, for every place that the content is going to land. Use the same one. Keep it simple. Keep it stupid simple. For this one, I will give you a practical example. The way that my promotion strategy works is that when I do long form content, I'll do a sort of a plug at the bottom of the content at the end of it with everything. It'll be a soft pitch at the top of that long form content. If there's something specific that I'm going to promote, then I'll do a hard pitch. For this is subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's as simple as it has to be. If I'm promoting something specific, I always want to do it at the top of that long form content, because not everyone's going to get through all of it. With short form content from that same long form content, instead of plugging all of my offers, because that would just be annoying to see that 100 times, I'm only going to plug a related product or a lead magnet. Here's a lead magnet if you don't know what that is. If you find value from these videos, you may enjoy the newsletter. Sign up for my newsletter. That's it. Then now I've promoted a lead magnet. And then finally, I'm going to take that long form content and I'm going to backlog it as a blog post, because people need to be reminded of something more than they need to be aware that it exists for the first time. There's no shame in promoting something over and over. Be proud of your work. Promote it. Share it. Get people interested in it. Like, you spent all the time making it. I know that probably sounds like a lot. At surface level, it may seem like a lot. I'm going to do another episode kind of getting into the details to show you how I'm doing it. And I think you may be surprised. Less is more. Use a good content strategy. Use a predefined promotional strategy so that you don't have to make that decision every single time, because that's exhausting. And then third, reference a successful growth strategy. Find something that works for another person, for another brand, and use it. Don't reinvent the wheel. My growth strategy is baked into the content strategy itself. What I mean by this is when I pick a reference or a handful of references, because usually I'm picking more than just one. I'm taking ideas and I'm combining them, I'm synthesizing them together. I'm looking at what worked for those people, what worked for those brands, what worked for those other creatives. I know that if I pick a topic that performed well for them, I'm gonna see growth, because I'm just barely starting. Even if it doesn't blow my expectations out of the water, it's growth. And if I can study what worked for someone with a much bigger audience, even better, right? Because now I have data to look at. Now I can see, oh, they picked a topic that got 10,000 views, and then the very next topic they talked about got 150,000 views. I'm gonna pick the 150,000 views instead of the 10,000 views topic. There's an endless amount of content out there that you can create, so pick good references. It's like I said earlier, you use reference tracks for music, apply the same concept to content. So that's my growth strategy. Be wise, use your entire toolkit, be smart and efficient with your time, and be consistent. Okay, almost done. If you need to, rewatch this entire video. Send me questions if you have them. You can find my Instagram. I'll probably put something up on the video to remind you that that exists. I want to know, do you find this valuable? What other stuff would you like me to talk about? Like I said, I have a ton of experience from a corporate background where I worked in not necessarily content strategy, but I worked in related spaces that have given me a lot of skills and a lot of experience. And I'm happy to share anything with anybody. If I had to boil down this entire video, it's these 3 points. If you want to be successful online as a creator, you need to use your skills to the fullest potential, regardless of whatever they are. You need to take the marketing side of your business seriously or you're destined to fail. And you need to create more content with less of your time. with less effort, and then leverage that entire content ecosystem to make that content work in different places. Stop fighting the ecosystem. Learn from your mistakes when you put something in the wrong place and it doesn't do well. Try a different place. You know, I don't know if my strategy for Twitter is gonna work yet. I'll adapt, I'll pivot if I need to pivot. At the end of the day though, you're gonna mess up, you're gonna make mistakes. I did. I'll even share some of the lessons that I learned from those mistakes, just as a reminder that, hey, I'm human, I am still figuring this stuff out. What are some of the mistakes that I made? More importantly, what are some of the lessons that I learned from them? I'll share the lessons in this episode. In next episode, I'll share the mistakes so that I can connect them back to the lessons. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Embrace the mistakes that you make, learn from them. What I've learned over the past year from my mistakes. You're gonna have multiple tools in your toolkit. You need to learn when to use the right one. Don't use the hammer for everything. Study your references, learn and experiment. Take the marketing shit seriously and put some effort into understanding your customer. Posting only your product is not a content strategy. It's a naive approach to marketing. It's a naive approach to building a brand. Lastly, just get started. Make some mistakes. Fail, pivot, improve over time. Okay, so that's it. That's a lot. In the next episode, I'll be talking about the mistakes that I made, being burnt out, what I learned from it, the biggest mistakes that I made related to where my money went, which is probably something that a lot of people are going to be interested in. So hit the notification bell. Throw me a follow on my social media. Sign up for the newsletter if you want it early. If you want to check out my sample packs, there's a link in the description. If you want to check out my beats, there's a link in the description. See what you like. You can download all of my beats for free. You can download my sample packs for free. Thanks for watching this. You know, if you made it the whole way through, that's so cool of you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you turn on that notification bell. See you next time. Feel free to send me questions if you have them. Peace.